I'm your host, Al Cooley, for another great episode on Ghosts in the Valley. Today we wrap up the three-part series with Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma. Today we will be talking to Jeri Beavers.
Nerd with a Phone 1 here, otherwise known as Charles, and you can find me on Instagram and Twitter. But I also host a podcast called Nerd with a Phone Podcast, and the number one question any podcaster gets, what is your podcast about? Well, I cover entertainment news, music, video games, television, comic books, and other hobbies. We say get nerdified. What does it mean? It means we get happy. Alright, check out Nerd with a Phone podcast on indieblastnetwork.com. Also check out Everyone Has a Story and the other great podcast here on the Indie Blast Network. Thank you.
Okay, I'm excited today to have Jeri Beavers on the show today. She is a paranormal investigator with the Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma. I heard you just got a promotion to president and co-owner of the team.
Yes, I did. So that was quite a lot of interesting things going on. So, you know, we always need a little new blood sometimes to push people to do a little bit more, get out of their comfort zone and do a little bit of things. And that was a little out of my comfort zone. And so I'm like, well, you know what? You don't grow if you don't step out of your comfort zone. So I'm like, yeah, let's do this. We're going to have a great time.
Do you book any of the events?
I do. I was case manager for a little while, and we actually did assist with a big event in Texas with another team, and we had a great time. We did a benefit for Battle Forge Nation and raised some funds for them, and I made a lot of friends along the way. It's not for the weak. You can either make or break your friendship. But if you're really into that, and that's something that you can do, and you can introduce a lot of people who may not be into the paranormal in an easy way, so as not to scare them, you know, because there are people out there that do a lot of scare tactics.
Yeah, there are, and there's I notice if I'm talking to different paranormal investigators from around the world, you know, different techniques, and I really think, of all the people I've talked to and interviewed, your team's the most intriguing and interesting to me because of all the different pastor. You have you had an atheist,
right?
Psychic and Buddhist, and I'm like, wow. This team is really diverse.
We are very diverse, you know. I can't know all the things, so if we come up against something that I'm not familiar with, what's the best way to figure that out is to find somebody who knows that information and to help us to understand what we're dealing with.
So how long have you been investigating?
I joined Paranormal Investigations about 3 years ago, and I think my anniversary is coming up, honestly. I have been intrigued my whole life. I always had experiences, even growing up, even when I was little, but, you know, we lived in a family with, you didn't really talk about those things. As we've gotten older, my cousins and I have started talking, and we believe all the women on our side, my mother's side, have abilities, whether it's one Claire or all of them. So it's been a learning curve, and joining the paranormal team really has heightened my abilities and helped me determine what was, because, you know, sometimes you think like, oh, did I hear that? Did I really hear that? Or is that my imagination? That just kind of helped me learn what what I'm experiencing.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I mean, even like earlier when I would take video equipment or electronic equipment with me to a site where there's paranormal activity, and then you catch nothing on your devices, and then it's after the fact that you're pushed or a cold wind that goes through you or by you. It's a different feeling than just having a piece of equipment with you. That's what I felt anyway.
Right. I did spend 2 nights by myself in a haunted hotel that has known activity, and I did have equipment out, and I didn't get hardly any hits on my equipment when I first got there. But anything on the equipment was I did my evidence. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm getting over the crud that's going around. We all have that. And I was having a bit of a coughing fit, and then I felt somebody like tapping me on the back, like it's okay, and then brushing my hair, and I'm like, okay, now I know I'm the only one in this building. So thank you very much. It was kind of a motherly thing.
Yeah, and I think most people will probably be out of there,
I'm like, oh, no, I love that. My friend's like, you're staying there by yourself? I'm like, yeah, all by myself. I'm good with that. So, yeah, things that you really can't, unless you're experiencing that, nobody else understands.
Yeah, I went through some of your background on your Facebook and other pages for the paranormal, and I love this saying. Well, I don't know if you put it on there. People think I'm weird because I love things that most people find creepy and scary.
Yes, I do. I love that stuff. They're like, why do you want to be in a dark room by yourself? One, people. So, I do love people, but being an empath, a lot of times, I don't want to turn that off, but sometimes I get very overwhelmed. And so sitting in the dark by myself really is very comforting. And then you add in the paranormal aspect, and I'm like, oh, this is so amazing. I get to talk and experience things that other people may not get to experience.
Now, when you stayed in that hotel for a couple of days, was there history there that...
Yes.
So the hotel was shut down?
No, it's actually a working hotel.
Wow.
It's a working hotel. It was one of our investigation sites for the benefit that we did. And my friends that live down in that area, they stay there quite a bit, and they do get a lot of activity. And that was one of the reasons why they chose to stay there. There was a couple that came in as I was leaving one of the days, and they were not aware it was an active site. So I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. You'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about me. It's fine.
So did you get any sleep?
I don't think I slept for a week because I went down a couple of days early. The event was on the 18th. I went down on the Wednesday before. I don't think I slept until I came home on Sunday. So I did some adventuring through that town and a neighboring town, which has some crazy history. And the things that I'm finding, I'm like, oh, this is like really crazy. Crazy. I'm like, is this true stuff or not? So, but with the things I experienced that led me to dig into those things, I'm like, this has to be at least partially true.
What got you interested, to begin with, in the paranormal?
I've always had experiences, and honestly, I had empty nest syndrome. And a friend of a friend, who's actually still on the team, posted that they had an opening. I'm like, I'm not doing anything, gets me out of the house, and I've always been interested. So let's see if this is really like what it is on TV. I tell Kale all the time that he lied to me. So that's our big joke. When he interviewed me for the team, he's like, oh, basically 90% of the time we're just sitting around in the dark talking to ourselves. Pretty much from the get-go, my second investigation, I have a calling to do this. Not only, to talk to people that have passed in my life, but to help people who have experiences with either their family members that they've lost or other things that have come into their home.
Today we were visiting my brother-in-law, who lives near Cleveland, Ohio, and we got on the subject, or I should say I got on the subject of
course, it always turns that way.
Right, of a few of the last episodes I've interviewed for my show, and how, last year was exciting, but I think this year's really, so far, has been jam-packed with, really great guests and stories. They're all sitting there looking at me like, why the hell would you do
Right.
a podcast on the paranormal when there's so many other subjects? Like, I'm a musician. I could have done one on CDs I put out. And I said, well, I always loved the paranormal and I had experience when I was a child. So, and then when I did a documentary a few years ago, all the interesting stories that came my way, because I put out ads in newspapers and radio, and I really got tons and tons of, ghost stories. And I was looking for my valley. So that's why my podcast is called Ghost in the Valley. It was actually my valley. So, northeastern Ohio, western Pennsylvania. But I was getting stories from Kentucky and Virginia. And I was like, wow, this is really, and then when I did my podcast, it's like all these stories coming in from Australia, England, California. I mean, it's been amazing, and I mean, since social media, and you probably know that as well.
And it's funny, I've you look at people's stories like, oh, where was this at? Oh, this was in UK. Oh, they're experiencing the same kind of phenomenon that I'm experiencing. So there has to be something that is, there has to be something that's linking it all together.
Right.
I mean, it can't be mass hysteria, right? Because I didn't know you. I didn't know your story.
Well, exactly, and you're right. There's stories that happen in Australia that happens in Springfield, Tennessee. That's almost exactly the same story, but it's a different place.
Right.
And
Right.
totally amazes me. I mean, each show I do, the different experiences, and paranormal is a wide field.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, there are some people who like all the equipment. They like all the bells and the whistles, and they like the lights and the flashing. I just like to sit in the dark with a flashlight and myself. They love the flashlight. You get your old, your Max flashlight, the unscrew in the front, have them turn it on. They love that thing because it's easy for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I do love my 360. I really do like that too, because, they like to change the colors and, they like to show off sometimes.
Right. And I heard that from different investigators is, when you have a dark room and you just have a flashlight or a candle, something where there's light, they, attracts them, the spirit.
And sometimes the person is the light, So a lot of us, the white lighters, we put off our own light. They can see us coming. When you get several of us in a room, it is amazing how they flock to you. And, so, they're in another building and all of a sudden you gather, maybe we were split up or whatever, you gather and like, oh, here they come. There's more of them. We've got more energy, and it's just amazing how it works that way.
Now, do you believe that you can move the spirit to the light or have them go to the light, or do you believe that there is no light? It's just...
I believe that there is light. I personally believe that we come back time and time again to, we have a contract. I have a lesson I want to learn. Why I signed up for some of the things that I signed up for. I'm like, I don't know what I was thinking, but I did. So in order for us to come back, we take that knowledge with us way down deep in, I don't even know what to call it. But we have the knowledge from the time of our lifetimes before, if you want to tap into that. And I think that really helps us, as paranormal investigators. That's why some of us, have more abilities or are able to communicate with different entities the way that we do.
Now, does the demonic side scare you?
I respect it very much because there is a demonic side. I would be stupid not to be scared. I'm not afraid to do what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people who don't have the knowledge or the experience to deal with something like that to help move it on. Unfortunately, you do get some people that are playing with things that they don't know what they're doing. They're inviting things in and they don't know how to get rid of it. So they call on people such as our team to help them with that. But if you don't know, again, if you don't know what you're dealing with, you don't know how to move it on or out or protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. During the 3 years that you've been doing this professionally, I should say, what has maybe been the most scariest time?
The scariest time, the most dangerous time, probably was my second investigation. I think that's probably why I feel that this is my calling. We went to an investigation, my second one. We weren't given a lot of information. We were helping out another team, and so we went. And the information we had was very minimal. And we thought it was grandma hanging out with the grandkids, having just being, little mischievous things. That's what we thought. We haven't even got set up. We weren't even unpacked. And I'm standing in the hall talking to one of the other investigators. And at that time, I was not really secure in what I was feeling or seeing, and I had not come across a negative entity before. I see a black apparition walk past the door. I mean, I'm like, hey, is somebody in that room? And they're like, no. And so Laura is like, what did you see? I'm like, I saw a full black, I thought it was a person just walked by the door because it's blocked out the light. And I'm like, okay. And my stomach had been hurting. And I'm like, maybe I ate something bad. Maybe I'm just nervous. But now come to find out, those are my cues that there is something negative there. So I didn't know how to deal with that. So I think that I don't remember being scared, but I remember being, man, I'm not prepared for this. I mean, but I'm here. What am I going to do? Let's do this. Let's figure out what we need to do. And that's just me. I don't ever turn away from anything. So, and here we are today. So
I also seen on your page that you mentioned about as you go down the rabbit hole. What do you mean by that?
Well, the rabbit holes. When you talk about the paranormal, like you had mentioned earlier, there are so many different things about the paranormal. Trolls, and there are, I always say I'm a banshee because you know my hair, but there are things such as banshees, depending what part of the world you're looking at. There's sprites, there's all different kinds of things. You look at one thing like, oh, well, if they're doing this, oh, but what about this over here? It's like ADHD for the paranormal. So start down the rabbit hole, and you find that it's not just one thing. It's not just a spirit. You have your negative entities, your different levels of your demonic, you have your different levels of your angels, and it could just be grandma hanging out in the house because she misses you. So it is a rabbit hole. There's just so much to learn. And I think everybody needs to be educated on that. You have these kids, I say kids, anybody under the age of 40 is a kid to me. These kids running around doing these ghost hunting because they see it on TV and they think it's all fun and games, and then they bring something home. So they're not doing their homework. And I think that's really a big part of the paranormal is you need to do your homework. If you don't know, reach out to a paranormal team in your area. Hey, can I tag along? Is this something I really want to do? It really is. That really is a big thing for me is the education.
When I talked to Kale, he said the same thing, that we should be like a learning team out there and teaching each other instead of stepping on each other's toes. We can work together on this, and right. You can always learn. There's always a learning curve there.
Right. Everybody thinks that looks at it like a pie. The bigger my piece, the less you get, and that's not really what it is. There's enough room for everybody to know everything you want to know. And to share the knowledge that you have, because somebody said something to me one time. I'm like, I never thought about it that way. And we were talking about protection, and I do it. I teach a metaphysical armor class, and I never thought, but I do it myself. I never thought about telling somebody just to cross their arms because you're protecting your heart chakra. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, it does.
I do it all the time, but it never dawned on me that's why I was doing it. So now I kind of added that in. So there are a lot of little things that we do that we don't even realize that we're doing, that, again, from our past lives, if you believe in that, or, just our spirit guides telling us this is what you need to do, something simple. You don't have to go out and spend thousands of dollars to protect yourself or to do an investigation, to learn something, so, right. When you have a lot of people, you can still have a good time. But you're going to have contamination. And if you're just out there maybe it's a learning investigation for a new person. This, what did you experience when you were with this team? Because we all investigate differently. We all have different tactics. If you watch anything on the television, you can see that the different TV shows, they have different ways that they investigate. Some are a little more aggressive than others. And other ones are just, they do like I do, like to sit in the dark and talk to themselves. So, there's enough room for everybody to be successful and everybody to learn and everybody to share the knowledge. But again, if you just look at that person's personality, that's kind of how it is in the world in general. So it's not really any different than, selling cakes on their corner, which I like cake, by the way. If anybody wants to send me a cake, I'll be happy to take it.
Before you did the paranormal investigations of Oklahoma, before you joined that team, did you have any other experiences with the paranormal or ghosts growing up?
Growing up, I did. I have always seen, everybody calls them the dark shadows or shadow people. I think that there's a difference between shadow people and true shadow people and what you see when you're not quite ready to see the things. Maybe you don't know what they are. They're just like kind of hanging out in the corner. I've always seen that kind of stuff. I've always heard my name and I'm the only one there. I've often thought that was my father. It usually was when I was doing something bad, doing something I shouldn't have been doing. My dad passed when I was very young. I was 11 and he's always been with me. Since my mom passed, she passed 3 years ago. She's in the house all the time. She annoys my kids. She knows that her being full body apparition bothers them and she just thinks it's funny. So she'll walk across the kitchen and giggle and my kids will go, "Stop that, Mom." So, but it is what it is. Growing up, I had a hard time with crowds because being an empath, I didn't know what that was. I got overwhelmed a lot and didn't know what that meant. I always kind of knew some things were going to happen. I didn't know things were going to happen or why they were going to happen, but I just I knew that was going to happen.
What have you learned during your investigations of the paranormal? I mean,
there's more. There's so much more, but they want to talk. A lot of them want to just have their story heard. If you just sit and be still and quiet, they'll tell you whatever you want to know. There's some that are a little bit more aggressive. They were people for the most part, unless you get into the demonic, and they never really were people. But they want to be treated nicely, and they want you to respect them. And sometimes they've tried to talk to people, and they just really haven't found the way that works for them. And then maybe you're the person that they connect with. So it's really a waiting game a lot.
So what do you think that they're there? I mean, why they didn't move on to begin with?
I think some of them are afraid of what's on the other side. Maybe they were a bad person and maybe they were afraid of the judgment. Maybe they didn't have anybody, they don't have anybody waiting for them, and then maybe they're here maybe to interact with something. Maybe they have a story to tell. Maybe in some of them, I don't even think that they know that they're dead.
I've heard it so many times, because when I first got into this, I was told, by different clergy that usually it's from spirit is from a sudden or violent death, or they have a story to tell or have a last thing to say before they go, and sometimes there's nobody to tell it to. It's at a mental hospital or some facility like that, or any hospital or hotel,
It's over and come back to visit. I fully believe that. So I don't think my mom is stuck here. I don't think she has any unfinished business. I spent the last 4 months with her, so they just like visiting, She was attached to this house, and this is where she was, I guess, happy, and stuff, or comfortable. So she hangs out here quite a bit.
What do you have coming up?
We have, let's see, what do we have? I think in April we're going to go to a tuberculosis hospital, which always is exciting. There's always something going on there. That one never disappoints. I'm going to help out with a bigger investigation in Wichita, Kansas at Cowtown Museum. The guys that we brought in for the event are doing an event there as well. And they're super cool guys. I don't know if they mind me telling who they are, but the boys from the Tennessee Ray Chasers, they're amazing. They are always so much fun to work with. They are just as funny as they are on TV, and they are just, you think that you never know how someone who is famous is going to be, if they're really cool and as fun as they are on TV, these guys really are amazing.
What team was that again?
The Tennessee Ray Chasers.
Oh, okay.
Off of Ghost Asylum in Haunted Town.
Mm-hmm.
They are a lot of fun to work with. So, and they always bring their A game. Always. Wherever we go, they always have interaction. So they really like the toys, the 360s, anything that can gives you a visual. They really like those, and they get a lot of hits off of those. Me, sometimes not so much. I just like to sit in the dark and play with the flashlight.
Well, whatever makes you comfortable, that it works for you,
Right. I mean, I do like the 360. It's fun because it lights up its pretty colors, and I like pretty colors. But stuff like that, whenever you are wanting to document, those are things that I think are really good tools. For me, sometimes it's just about the experience. Whenever I was in Texas, last weekend, I didn't know I was even going to go in. It was raining and they're renovating this hotel, and I kind of peeked in. I guess I looked like a wet puppy or something, and they invited me in. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. They're like, yeah, you can wander around, do whatever you want, just don't get hurt. I'm like, oh, okay. So like 3 hours later, they're like, I'm leaving. I'm like, oh, okay. But I got to go in places that other people haven't gotten to go into. Like the basement was flooded for a really long time. And I got to talk to some of the workers and some things that I had experienced while I was there, even though they were minor. Sometimes those are the best things. You're like, somebody else and I didn't tell them. I asked a couple of the workers, like, hey, so do you see things? And sometimes you get the look.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, hey, won't you go across the hall and talk to Ted? So I'm like, okay. So I went across the hall and talked to Ted, and I had been up on the floor above, and I was talking actually on the phone with one of my friends. And I'm like, I just saw a guy walk across the hall, and I know for a fact I'm the only one on this floor. I know. So I walked down the hall, and okay, there's nobody there. And there's only one stairs. There's no way that they could have come in from anywhere else. And I was between them and the stairs, and I'm like, oh, okay. And so when I had talked to Ted, he kind of told me the same thing. He says, well, I was taking rock. I was dumping it down the chute, and somebody walked by me because I knew I was the only one on that floor. So I turned around and I told the guy, excuse me, and he was gone. And I'm like, oh, could you tell me where that's at? And he goes, oh, right here on the floor above. Oh, okay. So that's where I was at. So that validated to me the experience that I had was.
And sometimes they pick who they want to talk to.
Right. They do pick who they want to talk to, which is funny because it led me to a window. I don't know if you read my obsession with this 3-story building. I am so obsessed with this building.
I got into some of it.
But it led me to this window where I saw this building. I didn't even know this building existed. Sometimes I just drive around and I'll find them. I'm like, this building's amazing. And one of my friends actually grew up in this town, so I sent him a text and I'm like, tell me about this building. He goes, oh, that's so-and-so building. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to go check it out. And he's like, good luck with that. I'm like, okay. And so I did. I haven't found a whole lot of information on it, but the stuff that I found, it's conflicting. So I want to know what really is somebody made up, so that's another part of investigation. People don't seem to get that you need to do your research.
Yeah, you have to research, and that's one thing I really like about your team is all of you are very professional, and you handle each one very professionally, and you work off each other.
We do. Some of us have better skills at digging than others. Some of us are better at the computer, and some of us are better at doing the talking. And so we play off those strengths.
Mm-hmm.
I like to search the internet, and I like to pick people's brains from wherever it is I'm looking at, because sometimes the history of a building or a house or even a person, what you find in writing is not really what it is. I mean, you can write anything you want down, and unless there's something to corroborate something different, then that's what you got to go off of.
When you said before about, when you're given that look,
right?
In other words, you're either batshit crazy or,
right.
Out there. I get that all the time, right. Even from family and friends.
Right. And so I always tell people, I'm like, nothing you can tell me will sound crazy. I promise. I promise if you think it sounds crazy, it's not. I have heard a lot of things. I've experienced a lot of things, and then I'm like, well, if you want to talk away from people, and you can usually tell the people who want to tell you something, that they don't want to say in front of their friends. And that's usually when you like slip them a card.
Yeah, and I also found that, you like, I think I said before, like some of the best things happened outside the story, or, outside the trying to get the event on, documented.
Right.
And that's happened to me, as the cameras are off and I'm getting ready to get out of there. That's when some things happen that's just unexplainable.
Right. You might hear a growl, or you might hear your name called, or, your equipment will, you don't have your recorder going and someone says something. You're like, oh, did you hear that? No, I heard that. But everybody turned off the lights were on, and so we're all packed up, and we don't have any evidence for that other than our experiences. And sometimes those are the best stories.
Well, what do you have to say to close out the show that where people can find you at?
I'm on Facebook and Instagram. You can find me under Jeri Beavers. I also started my blog. You Facebook stalked me a little bit, and that's very appreciative. I'm at Jeri B, the paranormal investigator. And I mean, my contact information there, you can reach me at Jeri, JERI.PIO@yahoo.com. So, we always like to hear stories, and I'm always looking for new places to go and investigate and have a good time. I travel a little bit. I have a friend that is in Texas, and we do some Texas sites there. Granbury, Texas was the town that we just did, for our charity event. Everything is very haunted. I do have to say that the spirits in that town are very polite. They will ask you, are you busy? From my experiences, but I've been to other towns where they just kind of go, hey, they kind of jump on you and go, hey, here's my story. I'm like, oh, you gotta wait one at a time. But, I like to travel. So, I mean, there's so many haunted places in Oklahoma. I don't know if I could ever get to all of them, but there are so many other ones that I want to go to too.
Right, and I find that almost be true. Almost every state that people I've talked to from different paranormal teams, just so busy.
And I think it's getting busier.
Oh yeah, mm-hmm.
More people are open to it, and so more things are showing themselves, I guess, allowing themselves to be seen. Sometimes they hide from us. I hide from people too. I don't blame them. So.
Well, Jeri, it's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I hope that we can make new friends and go new places. And you probably have some places I want to come see.
Oh, there's tons of places around here.
Anyway, I appreciate you having me.
Well, thank you, and yeah, we'll talk again.
Okay. If I have any more stories, I know where to find you.
For sure. I want to thank Jeri Beavers for being on the show today, and I'm sure I'm going to have the Paranormal Investigations of Oklahoma back on again. It was my pleasure to do a 3-part series on this fantastic paranormal team. So thank you, Tambray Ross. Check out Tambray's book she has just released. It's on the show notes. And also to Kale Epperson, the group leader and owner, on episode 2. And finally, Jeri Beavers for finishing up the 3-part series. This has been your host, Al Cooley, with Ghosts in the Valley.
Podcast Network.